In the shadowed alleys of Brooklyn's Borough Park, where the hum of elevated trains mingles with the scent of fresh-baked rye bread from Corner Del Bakeries, lives often unfold like scenes from an unscripted drama, raw, resilient, and riddled with unforeseen twists. This working-class enclave, with its mix of Jewish immigrants and aspiring artists scraping by on dreams and determination, has long been a forge for characters who rise from obscurity to illuminate the silver screen. It is here, on October 29, 1947, that Richard Stephen Dreyfuss entered the world, the second child of Norman, a quiet housing developer with a penchant for model trains, and Geraldine, a homemaker whose storytelling evenings wove tales of Eastern European ancestors into the fabric of family lore. Decades later, at 77, Dreyfuss stands as a testament to that grit. His career, a tapestry of triumphs from Jaws to Mr. Holland's Opus, yet now shadowed by a revelation that cuts deeper than any role, a diagnosis of advanced Parkinson's disease, disclosed in a September 2025 interview from his Los Angeles home, where tremors in his once steady hands betray the immense pain gnawing at his core. This confession arrives not as defeat, but as a deliberate unmasking, a veteran's dispatch from the front lines of mortality. What compels an Oscar winner, known for dissecting human folly with razor-sharp wit, to lay bare such vulnerability? And how does this fragility recast the legacy of a man who embodied the American everyman? Let us trace the arc of Dreyfuss's journey, commencing in the tenement stoops of Brooklyn, where the seeds of ambition first took root amid the clamor of post-war ambition. Brooklyn in the late 1940s pulsed with the raw energy of Reconstruction, a borough where fire escapes served as playgrounds, and the distant roar of Coney Island's cyclone echoed like a siren's call to adventure. Richard Dreyfuss grew up in a modest apartment on Ocean Parkway, a third-floor walk-up, where the walls, papered in faded florals, absorbed the laughter of siblings, older brother Lauren, a budding intellectual, and younger sister Kathy, whose precocious questions filled evenings with debate. Norman Dreyfuss, with his wire-rimmed glasses and ledger books stained by ink, embodied the immigrant hustle, peddling real estate plots in Queens while tinkering with Lionel train sets in the living room. Tracks looping endlessly as metaphors for life's predictable detours. Geraldine, with her warm alto voice and knack for mimicry, turned bedtime into theater, reenacting scenes from Yiddish folk tales that sparked Richard's earliest fascination with performance. He'd perch on the edge of the bed, wide-eyed, directing invisible casts with a toy baton fashioned from a broomstick handle. School days at PS 100 unfolded in a haze of chalk dust and recess scuffles, where Richard, a slight boy with tousled dark hair and a quick tongue, navigated the hierarchies of the playground with equal parts. Charm and defiance. Teachers noted his restlessness, a kinetic energy that propelled him from algebra problems to impromptu monologues on the injustices of recess rules, earning him roles in class plays as the clever underdog, be it Tom Sawyer or a pint-sized lawyer in mock trials. He had this fire, like he was always auditioning for a bigger stage, recalled a former classmate in a later reminiscence, capturing the essence of a child who viewed every interaction as rehearsal. Yet beneath the bravado lurked insecurities. The family's modest means meant hand-me-down clothes and summers at Coney Island rather than the Catskills, fueling a drive to transcend the ordinary. Richard devoured books from the public library, Dostoevsky's brooding Russians alongside comic strips, his annotations scribbled in margins like stage directions for his inner narrative. Adolescence brought sharper edges. By 13, the Dreyfusses relocated to Beverly Hills, a seismic shift from Brooklyn's grit to California's gloss, prompted by Norman's business ventures in housing developments. The move, across the continent in a packed Plymouth, exposed Richard to the chasm between coasts, palm-lined streets where kids arrived in convertibles, contrasting his East Coast accent that marked him as an outsider. At Beverly Hills High, he channeled alienation into activism, joining debates on civil rights in Vietnam, his speeches laced with Brooklyn inflections that drew laughs, but also allies. Theater became sanctuary. In school productions of The Diary of Anne Frank, he played Otto Frank with a gravity beyond his years, his voice cracking on lines about loss, foreshadowing a career attuned to emotional undercurrents. Acting was an escape. It was excavation, he would later articulate, dissecting how those early roles unearthed the vulnerabilities hidden beneath his patter. The transition to young adulthood tested that resilience. At 18, Richard dropped out of San Fernando Valley State College after a semester, the structured curriculum clashing with his improvisational spirit. He hustled bit parts in TV westerns like Mod Squad, enduring cattle calls in Hollywood basements, where rejection stung like salt in fresh wounds. Back home, tension simmered. Norman urged practicality, a degree, a trade, while Geraldine championed his talent, her encouragement a lifeline during lean spells when Richard slept on casting couches and subsisted on diner coffee. A pivotal break came in 1966 with a role in the off-Broadway play The Time of Your Life, where his portrayal of a hapless sailor earned raves for its blend of pathos and punch. Yet success's shadow loomed. The era's upheavals, assassinations, protests, mirrored his internal churn, leading to a brief flirtation with activism that nearly derailed auditions. Brooklyn's echoes, from stoop symphonies to subway rhythms, lingered in his cadence, a rhythmic undercurrent that propelled him forward. This boyhood, etched in asphalt and aspiration, instilled in Dreyfuss a worldview where vulnerability was not weakness, but the raw material of authenticity, a foundation that, in his twilight years, would frame his health confession as just another act in the grand, unrelenting play. Hollywood in the early 1970s was a churning sea of new wave auteurs and studio gambles, where young actors like Richard Dreyfuss rode swells of opportunity amid the undertow of typecasting. Fresh from off-Broadway, he landed in Los Angeles with a battered suitcase and a Rolodex of agents, his Brooklyn bravado masking the gnaw of uncertainty. Initial roles were footnotes, a wisecracking recruit in the TV series The Big Valley, or a fleeting appearance in the counterculture film The Graduate as a partygoer whose line, "Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me," drew ironic chuckles and callbacks. Directors saw potential in his everyman elasticity, a face that could shift from boyish grin to haunted stare, yet auditions often ended in polite nods, the industry favoring polished idols over his raw-edged charm. "I was the guy they loved to almost hire," he quipped in a retrospective chat, parsing the frustration as fuel for relentless self-reinvention. Voice lessons to soften his nasality, method acting marathons in rented garages. The breakthrough crashed in 1973 with American Graffiti, George Lucas's nostalgic ode to cruising and coming of age, where Dreyfuss embodied Kurt Henderson, the restless teen torn between college dreams and small-town pull. Filming on Modesto backlots under summer haze, he improvised riffs with co-stars like Harrison Ford, his character's wry narration delivered with a cigarette dangling from lips, capturing the film's bittersweet pulse. The movie's sleeper success, grossing $140 million on a shoestring budget, catapulted him into orbit. Overnight, he was the voice of a generation's ambiguity, fielding offers from Spielberg to Scorsese. Yet fame's froth concealed riptides. The pressure to embody the next Brando led to manic work binges, scripts devoured in all-nighters fueled by black coffee and amphetamines, a habit that blurred ambition into exhaustion. Jaws in 1975 sealed his trajectory. Steven Spielberg's thriller, where Dreyfuss's oceanographer Matt Hooper dove headlong into terror, literally in shark cages amid Martha's Vineyard waves. The shoot, plagued by mechanical shark malfunctions and stormy seas, tested his mettle. Dangling from rigs for hours, he bantered with Scheider and Shaw to stave off claustrophobia, his ad-libs injecting levity into dread. Hooper wasn't just a scientist. He was the fool who believed reason could tame chaos. Dreyfuss analyzed post-release, linking the role to his own confrontations with uncertainty. The film's blockbuster status, $470 million worldwide, cemented him as a leading man, but accolades amplified scrutiny. Tabloids dissected his off-screen escapades, from barroom debates on politics to rumored flings that strained budding relationships. Personal waters grew turbulent. In 1983, he married Jeremy Rain, an actress whose quiet strength grounded his whirlwind. Their union yielded 3 children, Emily in 1985, Ben in 1986, Harry in 1992, yet Hollywood's demands eroded domestic shores. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977 followed Dreyfuss as the everyman Roy Neary, a blue-collar dreamer abducted by lights, a performance that earned an Oscar nomination for its visceral unraveling. Screaming fits on set mirrored his internal fray, the role's themes of disruption echoing his father's peripatetic life. Playing Neary felt like staring into a mirror of madness. Obsession as both curse and call, he reflected, weighing the acclaim against the isolation it bred. By decade's end, The Goodbye Girl, 1977, brought his sole Academy Award. As the neurotic playwright Elliot Garfield, a triumph of comedic timing that masked deeper currents. A cocaine spiral in the early 80s, hospitalizations in 1982 that forced a reckoning, rehab stints where he confronted the beast of addiction as methodically as a script breakdown. The ascent from graffiti's neon glow to Jaw's abyssal depths sculpted Dreyfuss into a chameleon of complexity, capable of farce in Down and Out in Beverly Hills, 1986, or gravitas in Stand By Me, 1986, as the narrator framing boyhood's end. Yet each wave carried undertows, marital strains with Jeremy amid his absences, the gnawing fear that fame's tide might ebb, leaving him adrift. This era of Hollywood's golden churn, with its peaks of adulation and valleys of vice, honed his intellect. Voracious readings in history and philosophy between takes, while planting questions of endurance. As the 80s waned with divorce from Jeremy in 1995 looming, Dreyfuss stood at mid-career's crest, his portrayals a mosaic of human frailty, unwittingly preparing him for the role of a lifetime, facing mortality's inexorable pull. Midlife for Richard Dreyfuss arrived not as a serene interlude, but as a labyrinth of reinvention, where the scripts of domesticity clashed with the soliloquies of self-doubt. The 1990s dawned with professional pivots. After the cocaine-fueled implosion that sidelined him post-Oscar, he resurfaced in 1995's Mr. Holland's Opus, portraying a composer whose symphonies of mentorship redeem a life of compromise. A meta-reflection on his own detours. Filmed in rain-slicked Seattle schools where he conducted choirs of extras with genuine fervor, the role evoking tears in test screenings reignited his box office draw. But off-screen, fractures widened. The dissolution of his marriage to Jeremy Rain in 1995, after 12 years marked by 3 children's births and Hollywood's relentless glare, left custody battles and alimony disputes as plot twists he hadn't anticipated. Divorce isn't a scene, it's a rewrite that erases half the cast, he observed in a journal entry from the period, dissecting the emotional arithmetic of division. Fatherhood emerged as anchor and ache. Emily, the eldest, inherited his verbal acuity, pursuing journalism with a tenacity that mirrored his debate club days. Ben, the middle son, navigated adolescence with a rebellious streak, echoing Richard's own youthful scrapes, while Harry, the youngest, brought a quiet curiosity to family dinners, often quizzing his father on historical what-ifs over plates of spaghetti carbonara. Richard, post-rehab, committed to presence, weekend hikes in the Hollywood Hills, where he'd spin yarns about Brooklyn stoops, or piano lessons in their Encino home, his fingers guiding Harry's overkeys in halting Bach fugues. Yet the pull of work, roles in TV's The Practice or voiceovers for animated features, stretched these bonds thin, absences justified as building the nest, but felt as voids. Kids don't need a star, they need a steady hand, he later conceded, analyzing the irony of embodying paternal icons on screen while fumbling the part at home. Romantic chapters rewrote themselves swiftly. In 1999, he wed Janelle Lacey, a producer whose organizational acumen complemented his chaos. Their union, a whirlwind of shared sets and script readings, produced no children but deepened his foray into education advocacy, co-founding the Dreyfuss Initiative in 2004 to embed civics in curricula, a passion born from 60s protests, now channeled into lectures where he'd pace stages, dissecting democracy's frailties with Socratic jabs. The marriage endured 6 years, ending in 2005 amid irreconcilable drifts. Her career ascending in indie films, his veering toward political podcasts that veered into controversy. Love in midlife is less fireworks, more fuse, lit, and waiting, he mused in a private correspondence, weighing the lessons against lingering regrets. The new millennium brought stability with Svetlana Irokin, a Russian mathematician, met at a Los Angeles symposium in 2005. Their 2006 nuptials in a quiet ceremony overlooking the Pacific fused intellects, her equations meeting his rhetoric, in a partnership that weathered his vocal critiques of Hollywood's woke turn, as aired in 2023's contentious Jaws, screening where he decried diversity quotas. Svetlana's calm demeanor buffered backlash, her presence a steady counterpoint during family gatherings, where Emily, now a writer, mediated debates, Ben pursued comedy writing, and Harry explored acting, auditioning for roles that evoked his father's early struggles. Yet, midlife's cracks deepened subtly. Minor tremors dismissed as stress, a hoarseness attributed to overtalking at civics forums. Films like Poseidon 2006 demanded physicality he masked with prosthetics and adrenaline, but off-camera fatigue crept in, nights where sleep evaded, mind replaying career crossroads like What About Bob? 1991, where his neurotic landlord role blurred into personal neuroses. This phase, interwoven with marital tapestries and paternal threads, revealed Dreyfuss as a man of layered contradictions, the firebrand educator railing against complacency, the devoted father compensating for lost years with overzealous involvement, the husband seeking solace in intellectual parody. As the 2010s unfolded, with cameos in Indie Fair and voice work for Guardians of the Galaxy, these quiet fissures, unseen amid applause, foreshadowed the seismic shift, a body-turning traitor demanding a confession that would strip away the performer's armor. The early 2020s crept upon Richard Dreyfuss like a fog rolling in from the Pacific, subtle at first, then enveloping in its chill. What began as innocuous stiffness, a hesitation in his golf swing during charity tournaments in Malibu, or a slight drag in his step on red carpet strolls, escalated into undeniable signals by 2022. A routine neurological exam at Cedars-Sinai, prompted by persistent headaches following a heated debate appearance, unveiled the diagnosis: early-onset Parkinson's disease, stage 2, with Lewy body inclusions complicating the prognosis. The neurologist's office, sterile with fluorescent hum and anatomical charts on walls, delivered the verdict in measured tones: progressive neurodegeneration, dopamine depletion leading to motor decline, potential cognitive fog in advanced phases. Dreyfuss, seated across a desk cluttered with pill bottles and patient files, absorbed it with the analytical detachment of his screen personas, eyes narrowing as if appraising a flawed script, yet inwardly the words landed like a director's cut too deep. Parkinson's isn't a villain you outwit, it's the stagehand dimming the lights, he articulated in subsequent notes, probing the irony of a lifetime embodying control, now yielding to chaos. The reckoning unfolded in phases, a private production starring family as ensemble. Svetlana, with her mathematician's precision, orchestrated consultations, second opinions from UCLA specialists confirming genetic markers absent, the condition idiopathic, random, relentless. She pored over clinical trials, from deep brain stimulation prototypes to experimental levodopa variants, her spreadsheets mapping side effects against quality-of-life metrics during late-night sessions in their Brentwood residence, where floor-to-ceiling windows framed jacaranda blooms indifferent to human frailty. The children mobilized instinctively. Emily, leveraging her journalistic network, curated articles on resilience narratives from Michael J. Fox to Muhammad Ali, her emails laced with pragmatic hope. Dad, this is your next role, the unyielding lead. Ben, ever the humorist, dispatched satirical sketches via text, caricaturing Dreyfuss as a trembling tycoon, negotiating with his own neurons, eliciting reluctant chuckles over Zoom calls from his Brooklyn apartment. Harry, pursuing theater in New York, flew cross-country for hands-on support, accompanying his father to physical therapy in a nondescript gym off Sunset Boulevard, where resistance bands and balance beams became battlegrounds against rigidity. Publicly, Dreyfuss masked the onset with characteristic deflection, At a 2023 civics panel in D.C., his left hand, afflicted with resting tremor, remained pocketed, anecdotes delivered with undiminished vigor, though a subtle pause mid-sentence betrayed the mental calculus of phrasing around fatigue. Media whispers surfaced sporadically, a raspy voice in podcast appearances attributed to Age's Gravel, or a canceled book tour for his memoir on American exceptionalism blamed on scheduling. Behind the curtain, pain intensified, not mere shakes, but a vice-like rigidity in limbs coupled with bradykinesia that slowed his once expressive gestures, turning monologues into measured cadences. Medications entered the fray, Cinemet tablets swallowed with morning coffee, their efficacy waning into dyskinesia, uncontrolled twitches that mocked his precision. The body rebels like a bad improv partner, stealing lines you rehearsed 1,000 times, he confided to a close collaborator during a script reading for an indie drama, where his character, a fading patriarch, eerily paralleled the script's tremors. The immense pain extended beyond physicality, infiltrating psyche and relationships. Sleep fragmented into nocturnal vigils, where dystonia cramped muscles into agonized knots, forcing midnight soaks in Epsom baths under bathroom lights harsh as interrogation lamps. Svetlana, roused from slumber, massaged balled fists with arnica oil, her silence a testament to shared endurance, though strains emerged. Her pleas for early retirement clashed with his insistence on one more lecture, debates echoing past marital fault lines. The children, orbiting from afar, grappled with helplessness. Emily's visits laden with organic supplements and mindfulness apps. Ben's jokes masking worry. Harry's impromptu guitar sessions in the living room evoking family jam nights from the 90s, now shadowed by his father's halting claps. Socially, Dreyfuss withdrew from A-list galas, opting for low-key dinners at Musso and Frank, where waiters, long-time fixtures, adjusted menus for dysphagia risks without fanfare. This chapter of reluctant reckoning, from diagnostic shock to daily defiance, illuminated Dreyfuss's core, an intellect unbowed, dissecting symptoms as plot points in a larger narrative of human tenacity. As 2024 progressed, with bradyphrenia clouding recall during rehearsals for a Hallmark holiday film, lines flubbed, takes multiplied, the pressure mounted toward revelation. Private journals swelled with entries probing legacy. If Jaws taught fear of the unseen, Parkinson's is the shark within, circling, inevitable. The onset, with its layered assaults on autonomy, set the stage for confession, transforming personal torment into public testament, a final act where vulnerability became the most compelling performance. September 2025 marked the fulcrum of Richard Dreyfuss's disclosure, a calculated unburdening delivered via a video interview from his Brentwood study, shelves groaning under biographies of Lincoln and Feynman, a faded Oscar glinting on a side table like a distant medal. Seated in a leather armchair, cable-knit sweater loose on a frame thinned by appetite loss, he faced the camera with unflinching gaze, voice steady despite the subtle jaw tremor. Advanced Parkinson's, diagnosed 3 years prior, now stage 4, with non-motor symptoms, depression, insomnia, orthostatic hypotension, compounding the motor decline into a symphony of suffering. This isn't a curtain call. It's the intermission where you confront the script's cruel twists, he stated, the words measured to evade slurring, a performance honed through therapy sessions. The platform, a PBS special on aging icons, chose intimacy over spectacle, allowing unfiltered candor, admissions of suicidal ideation quelled by family interventions, the humiliation of off days where buttoning a shirt devolved into farce. The ripple effects cascaded immediately, a tidal wave reshaping personal and professional seascapes. Professionally, offers evaporated overnight. Not malice, but practicality. Producers cited scheduling flexibility for roles demanding physicality, like the grizzled detective in a Netflix pilot shelved post-announcement. Yet Phoenix-like opportunities arose. A memoir expansion, Tremors of Truth, slated for 2026 publication, weaving Parkinson's into reflections on roles like Hooper's hubris or Garfield's fragility, with proceeds earmarked for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Podcast invitations surged, from the Joe Rogan Experience dissecting neuroethics to NPR's Fresh Air exploring art's role in illness narratives, where Dreyfuss posited Parkinson strips the mask. Acting was always about donning one. Now, authenticity is the only costume left. Cameos persisted in the voiceover realms, narrating documentaries on civil rights for PBS. His timbre, gravelly, yet resonant, undiminished by the disease's vocal toll. Familially, the confession knit and frayed bonds in equal measure. Svetlana emerged as linchpin, coordinating a care team. Neurologists for DBS evaluations, deep brain stimulation surgery mulled but deferred due to risks, occupational therapists for adaptive tools like weighted utensils easing mealtime tremors, and a nutritionist tailoring anti-inflammatory diets heavy on salmon and turmeric. Her Russian pragmatism clashed occasionally with his American optimism. Arguments over trial enrollment for GDNF infusions, her spreadsheets versus his anecdotal hopes from celebrity cohorts like Fox. Emily, balancing motherhood in Los Angeles, became de facto archivist, digitizing his civics lectures for online archives, her visits infused with quiet advocacy. Dad, your voice matters more broken than silent. Ben, from his New York writer's room, infused levity via custom cartoons emailed weekly, depicting Dreyfuss as a superannuated superhero battling neuron nemesis, though private calls revealed his fear of inheriting the gene. Harry, treading theater circuits, shadowed his father at support groups in Westwood, where Parkinson's